Having learned of Sephiroth's whereabouts, Cloud and the others crossed the marshlands by Chocobo and arrived at the entrance of a Mithril Mines.
They saw a note from Sephiroth. It said, "Losers, I left 2 days ago."
Well, closer, remember. Sephiroth did
this part.
Sephiroth was here. Cloud is a loser.
This is straight out of a PlayStation game by the looks of it.
Midgar Zolom.
What the hell?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's a beast impaled on
nice
its head.
react.
It's truly amazing, Tifa. What the hell?
I guess she wants to trade. I guess Tifa is an aspiring hunter. Did Sephiroth do this? No, actually, that was Genesis.
No, that's the
Yuffie did that, actually.
No, the snake couldn't handle its life any longer.
Damn.
Okay. If they really do want to go unhinged, can you imagine if the gacha later goes on to say, actually, but none of this was Sephiroth's fault, it was all Genesis?
I think it's best
We're going to get someone capable of that.
Again, it's still a good establishing shot because it gives you an idea of what Sephiroth is capable, especially if you actually fought the Midgar Zolom on your own.
I am surprised they didn't keep that fight and, have it at least happen prior to this to showcase.
Well, yeah, they did not want to use a Midgar Zolom model, especially because Rebirth was not out yet by the time this chapter came out, if I recall correctly. Anyway, the Mithril Mine is your next dungeon, so that's what. And it doesn't have any particular gimmick, so it's just get to the end and collect all the items. For those who don't know, and again, it's not too much of a spoiler considering how early in the game is, the Rebirth tries to have its cake and eat it too, by having the fight with the Midgar Zolom mandatory, and it ends with Sephiroth actually taking the kill stealing from you, and actually impaling it on the tree. So you get to see how it happened,
Which is a bit of a cool change. Speaking of ties to this in the remake, I'm surprised that the remake trilogy didn't take advantage of the gacha and make some of the costumes DLC in the main games.
It seems to be more of a case of the opposite, where the gacha is taking advantage of some of the costumes that instead appeared in Rebirth to do it. I'm sad to report yet, 3 summers in, and we still don't have yet, however, the sailor costume for Barret, which is a disgrace.
I wonder if eventually someone will be able to find a way to take the costumes from the gacha and mod them into the remake
Might be possible.
trilogy.
A lot of people managed to data mine the necessary stuff already in terms of, models, PNGs and all, so it would be possible, but I can imagine it would require some tinkering.
I'm still shocked that, as of this day, as far as I know, the gacha has not made any of Cloud's dresses costumes. Like, dude, do you know how much money that could print you with people? I assume you have to roll for costumes in this game.
Yeah,
right?
I think I mentioned in earlier parts, but I guess it's a good time for a refresher. Again, you spend the actual important currency. If you watch Steph Sterling's videos on gachas, you know what I'm talking about. And for the roll, 3,000 per roll. That operates on the stamp logic. If you arrive at the 12th mark of a stamp, you do get the costume that you're actually pulling from that banner for.
Pity, basically. But yeah,
that's
neat.
But after all, a couple of times the game has started to ease up and have ways so that older costumes can be obtained in different other banners. So it's not stingy with the flavor of the month, stuff all the time. It basically rewards patience and newcomers.
Credit where credit is due. Ever Crisis is definitely one of the most generous of the gachas I've ever.
It's kind of like the City of Peronia in a case where, if you want to just be there for the story, just to look at the story, you're perfectly fine. If you care about character appearance and you want the costume, that's where the problem do start. And if you want to be competitive for the hardest challenges, well, it's a gacha, so you know what that means. We want to take your money.
Hey.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, yeah, that is one black spot for gachas with me when they're multiplayer, so, yep, better hope you roll best to compete the best. Now, there are some gachas that make sure to keep the multiplayer just cooperative instead of competitive against other players at least.
Well, no, there's no
where does
PvP in this. The closest is a feature that will be introduced a couple of parts after this one, you know, so you have no idea what I'm talking about yet, and it will be guild battles where, you know, they give you a mob to actually fight, you know, and you get ranked based on your performance. So the competition is more about, you know, who can perform the best against the target rather than PvP.
I'll give it the same credit I do for Fortnite. It is essentially functional, and it's not necessarily pay to win. You can even level up the base weapons enough to basically deal with the story stuff, and chances are...
That being said, Jovan, you're about to see an example of how it wasn't completely balanced.
Stop right there.
Criminals come.
You.
Yeah, it's me, the guy who suplexed your boy into that other girl in the remake. Do you know who I am? Like, no joke, one of my favorite maneuvers of Rude is how he can literally throw Cloud into air like that. Well, yeah, I don't know what you want, but I know you're a Turk. You're right about that much. It should make the rest easier.
Sure it is, buddy.
It's difficult to explain what the Turks do.
No, it isn't.
Kidnapping, for one. Tio,
listen, he's trying to sound cool.
That's a harsh way to put it, but these days it's not so simple. Actually,
he
it
used
is.
to do that.
No. So, do we want a coffee or something?
I forgot what I was going to
And
say.
here comes Elena.
It's alright, Rude. I know you don't like speeches, so don't force it.
I do like
Yes.
the portrait.
I like how Rude's that guy who will act stoic, but he can be a dork too.
That's the thing.
Then explain.
Remember, Droba, that was their
farm.
that's the Turks' personality in the original game too. They were Team Rocket, basically.
I'm the newest member of the Turks, Elena. Thanks to what you did to Reno, we're short-handed.
No kidding. Before
Really?
Crisis,
It was just you free tackling stuff?
Before
Dang.
Crisis explains why there are so little Turks by the beginning of the original game.
But because of that, I got promoted to the Turks.
Oh, well, you're welcome then.
So the turnover rate for
Reno.
staff is really terrible.
Pretty much.
But the promote...
Also, someone
hey,
played
that-
Bartle's Gate free.
But hey, look at the bright side, Shiroi. That means the promotions come easy.
Anyhow, our job is to find out where Sephiroth is headed, and try to stop you every step of the way.
Wow, you got set up with the absolute worst missions. You're being set up against the main playable protagonist and Sephiroth.
Yeah, this is not a promotion, honey.
Well, it's a Klingon promotion, in which case it can suck.
Wait a minute, it's the other way around. You're the ones that are getting in our way.
Beautiful, she's a klutz too.
You're in my way, sir.
Damn it, I had this written on my hand and everything.
Elena, that's enough. You're ruining my aura farming. You ready?
So yeah, thankfully you actually do get to fight them, unlike in the original game when they just leave. But yeah, again, the Turks were supposed to be more comedic despite being a threat. But because, I guess the way the translation team interpreted in the original, they made them super serious for some reason.
They kept Reno being more
Playful,
fun-loving, but yeah... But Rude was definitely a lot more dead serious, which, okay, I think worked enough with having him be
Even
something
Elena,
like
despite having the oversharing feature, she still was technically more competent. This in turn instead fed Rebirth and Remake, where they still are, more playful, but they're now more competent with what they do. Oh, by the way, yes, the fight immediately starts with them chucking a grenade. Piece of shit.
Well, you know what? To her credit, she's going up against people who can wield
Also,
giant swords and
fun trivia.
suplex giant monsters, so yeah, that's probably a good thing to lead in with.
Because the friend that I have, the one that contributes to the Final Fantasy Wiki, he basically wanted to note that they're using her model from Advent Children for this gameplay instead of the one from Rebirth, surprisingly.
Because this was because if I recall correctly, this part came out before
True,
Rebirth.
but I'm really surprised that they managed to get a mileage out of that, because it's an early 2000 movie, Oh, here's where it starts also. This fight introduced the provoking, debuff, buff, whatever you want to call it, because of course with this kind of tactical system you do need the enemy tank that wants to soak the damage and attract your style. So this is also what I was going to say before, Drova. This was at the point, starting with this very fight, this is what at the point where people realized that, wow, the chapters for the main stories are basically a cakewalk until you get to the bosses, where similar a bit to Opera Omniac, they have this specific gimmick that tells you that basically it's this way or the highway. Not completely like in a Atlus RPG, not completely, but the sponginess of the HP was very noted. So the devs actually had to take into account, and a couple of months after this chapter, premiered, they basically generally nerfed the end of the chapter bosses, so they will be more manageable. Now, unfortunately, it's kind of the other way around, where they're more like of a joke. So, in order to make the fights more, palatable for this recording, I'm mix and matching the hard mode encounters. But for this one that you're seeing right now, that's the genuine encounter. And a later one will see actually me losing.
I will say, given that this is a gacha, I'm actually surprised that they took the high road and actually paid mind the player feedback instead of just going, deal with it, you've been dealing with it up to this
They did
point.
not want it to have players bleed, to be fair.
Oh yeah, like, and you know what? I will give them credit. They are probably knowledgeable of the fact that, at least when it comes to Japanese output, gacha games aren't doing as hot. No. Nowadays, the big-ticket country for gachas has been, of all places, China, who have been pretty much knocking it out of the park, especially with the big Hoyoverse trinity of
here's the thing. You know how one of the big reasons why Concord failed was that it was based around Sony's marketing, with several years of lateness, to the party. This is kind of the opposite. China actually studied what would have been trending, made actual correct predictions, and prepared accordingly, which is very unfortunate because they're making way too much money of that, to the point, as I mentioned during our vote discussions for the Game Awards last year, they're now building fucking nuclear reactors with the money they're getting from Hoyover stuff. Jesus.
Christ on a bicycle, like... I've like,
this is
I'm
why
not gonna
voting
tell...
with your wallet is important, kids.
That's kind of the scary thing about their gacha games. From what I've played, it's possible to actually have a good time without putting your money in the bank, but that is part of what sadly makes their gachas so successful. I've said it before and I'll say it again. One of the best ways to get people to pay for a free-to-play game is to actually make it feel like you can play for free. In the sense that, like, oh, yeah, you actually don't need to pay, and you can still succeed at the game. That, in turn, makes people a lot more okay with putting money into it, as paradoxical as that may sound. Sure, yeah, every now and again you'll get your suckers, the whales, essentially, but if you make something accessible enough, some people will think, you know what, these guys aren't being predatory, so I actually feel okay with giving them my money, essentially. and do it with enough people amongst the casuals, and boom, 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 you have.
Also,
you're practically drowning in money.
I say that, but most companies in Japan at this point have at least a part of their stakes owned by Tencent. So really, at the end of the day, I just cannot escape that.
The weird thing is, apparently, according to a lot of people, yeah, Japan gachas are kind of sadly now playing catch up to the Chinese ones. And mind you, the Japanese gacha market is so oversaturated. Like, just to put things into perspective, there were like 3 major Japanese gachas that just recently started on the same day. One was the Persona 5 one, another was the Usume Derby one, and I forget what the third one was, but still, the fact that they all released on the same day does show how clogged up the market is. Like, nowadays...
Square Enix has decided, probably wisely to actually genuinely toning down. That's why they had the massive shutdowns, one after another of many. Aside from this one, there are still a couple, and a lot more are still active just for the Japanese market alone. So it's not like, they're completely gone. But they decided to, tone it down and focus instead of, a different strategy, which also meant more AA style game that, try to spice things up, like the more recent Romancing Saga 2 remake.
Also, Jova, I believe the second one you mentioned was actually already available in Japan. The recent release was the worldwide version.
But it coincided with, I think, Persona 5, which came to everywhere on the same day, so a lot of people counted that, but that might be the case. Don't quote me on that.
Well,
I'm still trying to remember what the third one
mostly.
was.
Anyway, the way the fight went is actually my bad, because at this point I did not manage to craft yet a wind materia, which would have granted me an aero, magic, which would have easily dispelled the provocation meter for wood. Again, later fights will be more streamlined, so it will not have, this clogging.
But yeah, no, like, part of me wonders, what would an alternate reality where gachas are gachas, just minus needing to pay to generally have a good time with them most of the time be like? Because gachas are, paradoxically, they can feel like some of the cheapest games, but they can also feel like some of the most in-depth and well-budgeted games for obvious reasons.
Well, for starters, ever since, I'm gonna say, 2013, roughly, gacha started to employ proper orchestras and official instruments instead of just relying on synths, and that includes creating entire new soundtracks from scratch. Like, honest to God, a lot of very good music tracks, remixes, and original both came out of a lot of mobile games that these days a lot of people might not even remember because they're gone, and the respective developers did not uploaded them on services like Spotify.
Yeah, like, to bring up Fate Grand Order for a bit here, Titan Moon, when they first made Fate Grand Order, back at the time, that was them pursuing, and mind you, this was way back in, like, the early 2010s, where people thought gachas would be more of a fad. Like, Titan Moon did not have any faith in it. To their shock, probably joy, but also a lot of horror, not only was it successful, FGO would later make so much money that it's basically now the company's biggest source of income. To the point where FGO went, crap, we made a system that doesn't exactly play that well, now we actually have to support this and make it so that players won't leave, essentially. And they've been running with it ever since now, over a decade. Like, it really does show how they were also lucky in that they're one of the few Japanese gachas that made it outside.
Is that all you're capable of? Also, I don't remember if she did it in this part, but Yuffie occasionally hums the victory fanfare. That's cute.
She did, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Continue
Nice.
the proud tradition.
Sen.
Rude's right, Helena. There's no need to tell them everything.
Well, the fun being that.
In hindsight, we probably could have solved a lot more if they had told us stuff.
Sorry, it's Sen.
Alright, I keep forgetting also that, she has a crush on him.
That was a thing.
I thought I gave you orders.
Oh, right.
Don't worry, she hit us with the flash grenade. It hurt.
It was the first thing she did, went straight for the pocket grenade.
Now go! Don't forget to file your report.
Why
That's
did
not
you
how the
go?
song goes. Very well. Rude and I will go after Sephiroth. Who's heading for Junon Harbor?
Be
Thanks
sure to
for
tell this in your
telling us!
megaphone, Elena. You'll be going great, along with Luigi from Persona 5.
Oh, God.
It's a good thing nobody knows that we're the Phantom Thieves!
Thanks, Luigi.
I do think the game's a little too hard on him, but
Elena,
yeah, no, that time he
what
deserved
did
the
I
scolding.
just say?
Maybe she's secretly a sleeper agent.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, she's really just, that mindless on the matter. Again, before
I know,
President
I'm
expands
joking.
this aspect by having her sister level character and telling about her. Go, don't let Sephiroth get away.
Oh yeah, just chase after Sephiroth. That's simple.
I would like to remind
Yes,
you, Jova, that these two, well, Reno and Alda.
Reno says he wants to see you after the injuries you gave him.
Fun fact,
heal.
in FF7 Machina Bridge, they actually specify that the damage will stiff up punching his balls very hard.
He wants to show you how much he misses you all with a brand new weapon.
Oh, he's giving it to us for free? How nice.
Yes, he's actually a
Oh,
really
works.
nice guy.
Well then, Arif, long time no see. Now that Shinra's focusing on Sephiroth, it looks like you won't have to worry about us for a while.
I'm
Thank
so
Hey, since-
flattered.
Hey, since we're talking about awkward crushes, how about saying an Arif?
Yeah, that's more weird.
What are you saying? That I should be grateful to Sephiroth?
Oh, choice words, Arif.
No, I won't be around to keep an eye on you, so take care.
Honestly, that's a blessing.
But, that's a weird love triangle. Elena was into Sang, who was into
I'm hearing
Arif.
that from you.
I'm just glad that they don't go the extra mile and just imply this shit, because, 13 different layers of no. Goodbye, everyone.
Yeah.
I pray you stay out of Shinra's way.
I think you damn well know we won't.
Like, we're kind of here for that.
Also, I hate how we fade out before we can actually climb the wall because I wanted to see how Red 13 would have done it.
He jumped.
Anyway, tune in for the next part where we go, if I recall correctly, properly to Junon. So yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.